Okay, we are recording. Jake, how are you today?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Good stuff, good stuff. Nice and early, mate. I've got you out of bed early today, a 10 a.m. start. How's that
But
working out for you?
I've got kids, bro. I've got kids, so I've been up
Oh,
for a couple
yeah.
hours. That's all good.
Oh, good stuff, good stuff. Um, One of the things, before we get on to the first track and intros,
Yeah,
talking about being a creative and having kids and things like that, it seems a distant memory now, but I just want to sort of take you back to lockdown and just
yeah,
tell me a little bit about how you found that, both creatively and personally.
yeah. Creatively, it was so I was on tour with an artist called Tori Kelly, and that weekend I remember we were playing the Sunday we just finished a UK tour. And the Sunday night we were supposed to play Roundhouse, and on paper she'd sold out Roundhouse. Um,
What a
but when
venue.
I went out to open for it, it was half full. And I remember like my mate saying, "Oh yeah, Jay, I would come tonight, but I just don't want to risk it. I don't want to get on the bus and whatnot." I remember going into lockdown thinking, like, literally everything's changed as we know it, and like I think that was like the first big sign for me. Anyway, a week later, somehow I ended up signing a new record deal, and because as with many people, I didn't have a clue of what I was going to do or whatever,
Yeah.
and I ended up signing this new record deal, and so I spent literally the majority of that year with the on and off lockdowns making an album from my spare room at home.
Did,
So it worked out. It worked out pretty all right, you know.
yeah. I'm always interested as to when an artist finally, like you say, he was on tour, and so finding time to write on tour is few and far between. And
Yeah,
do you feel, because I think a lot of us thought when we went into lockdown, well, look, the world will right itself in a few weeks and everything will be back to normal. And obviously, we got that wrong. And I think as the reality sort of set in that, oh, hang on, we could be in this for a while yet.
yeah.
Did you feel a pressure to go, right, well, look, I've got time, I've got to write? Or is it something that is more of an organic thing where it's like, look, I feel like I can write today. I've got some ideas going around in my head, or did you feel now I've got that time, I've got to kind of max it?
Yeah, no, I think I was under no pressure to be creative. In fact, I remember talking to my other mates like who are in like the arts or whatever, and just saying we could panic and try and get ourselves all over social media and be super productive, or we could step back and use it as a time to craft something special and to reflect. We're never going to get a time like this ever again in history,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and um, and this could be a great time for us just to to press pause
Yeah,
and to chill out. It's not. I mean, obviously, you've got to make a living somehow. Got to figure that out. But if we can step back for a little bit.
absolutely. Let's talk records. Jake, I'm
Ooh.
going to ask you to tell me for the first track the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro.
The greatest ever intro has got to. It's got to give it up by Marvin Gaye. Has to be that.
There
It's
was no qualms about that, was there? Straight in.
it's like it's like a party before the party starts. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, like it's ridiculous. Like, yeah, it's old school, but you don't get that anymore. Like where you just got vibe, like
Yeah.
just people having a good time, like the party
Yeah.
as the intro. Like
Yeah.
I feel like the way the way people made records them time, they were looking for a feeling, which
Yeah.
now we're looking for a stream. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's really interesting that you say that, Jake, because that kind of is a question I love to ask musicians, and that is when you look at, let's use Marvin Gaye as a great example.
Yeah,
Um, if you look at the, if we fast forward past the kind of the early Motown, beautiful bits of
yeah,
pop,
yeah, yeah,
um, and then you look at, was it 65, 66 when he decides he's going to make this record?
yeah, yeah,
And Berry Gordy's like,
yeah.
what the fuck's this? There's no hits on here. Goes on to be the biggest selling record in history of
Yeah,
Motown. But and that is a vibe. That is a concept record. It's a political record, and
absolutely.
and and with that, he bucked the trend. And when you look at pop music, at that point, Motown was the kings of it, you know,
Yeah.
perfect pop songs. And so what I want to ask you is, as a creator and a songwriter, being influenced by people like that, whose music, if you took what's going on to a record label now, they'd be like, "Whoa, where's the single? What's this? This goes on for 8 minutes. What's this? Where's, you know?" And so with all of that in mind, and the fact that now you said, like you say, you're trying to get a stream, and the intro is the integral part of this question, really, because so many, and I say pop acts, I guess, I work into that formula of like, well, I want to get on TikTok, and I want to really tune into the next generation's very rapid thumbs and fast attention spans.
Yeah.
Does any of that filter through into your creative process? Do you know where I'm going with that question?
Yeah, no,
it's totally. All over the place.
Yeah, no. It's actually really clear. Yes, is the answer. Unfortunately, but it's because I work with a team. I work with, do you know what I mean? I have my team of distribution, label. I have a team around me, and their job is to ensure that my music gets out as far and wide as possible. And there's a monetary return on that as well, which actually does great, because then I get to save some pennies for my children. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like the art, amidst having a team or amidst what's going on TikTok or whatever else, it's actually down to the artist. The artist's integrity is, the artist's responsibility is to maintain the artist's integrity, like to navigate that line of what feels good versus what will get people's attention. I think, I would hate to be, and I say this with all due respect to so many artists, millions of artists across the world, I'd hate to be starting out now. I'd actually hate it. With my personality type, with the way I am, I would hate to start an artist career now.
Yeah.
I hate it. I think I'd get swallowed up. I wouldn't be able to do it, like mental health wise, let alone creative process, let alone but I realize even now, doing it for a while, and as well as like when I talk to my peers, like whether it be JP Cooper or Jacob Banks or whoever else, like I think the further up the chain you go, like even like my mate Ed, like he's looking for, I know he's got the formula down, but he's still battling for, and many artists are still battling for the feeling in finding that feeling in music, because there's nothing like you can release a formula. So let's take Ed for it. He's a legend, one of the like salt of the earth type guys. You can release something like I don't know. You can release like a typical formulaic type song, which is great for radio, great for streaming. But then there's nothing like what's his song? Thinking Out Loud. Like,
you know what? It come on the radio this morning.
Yeah.
And that's forever going to get played at weddings.
Exactly.
It's got a feeling.
Like, that will be on like the Heart FM. That will be on the like Magic FM for years.
Yeah.
And he knows it. The world knows it. There's just those types of and I feel like, particularly on my journey, the more I'm leaning into what does a timeless song, what does a classic song sound like? What does and it's a battle, man. It's a battle. So that's why I say the question you asked made total sense.
Yeah.
It's just hard. It's actually really hard.
It's balance, right? Trying to get it right.
Totally. I have just like I know an artist. I played guitar for years ago. An artist called Cleo Soul. She used to be in the grind, like particularly BBC One Extra World, and she used to make like pop R&B songs. Anyway, that didn't work out the way it did. Gave it a couple of years, and she's always been a great singer. She came back in, and she just started making soul music, like the way she likes. She became a mother. She's made 1 or 2, 3 albums. Like, she's not all over TikTok. She's not all whatnot. And she's just sold out 2 nights at the Royal Albert Hall in 13 minutes or something crazy like that. Like people want the feeling.
Yeah.
But we've got, as artists, we end up contending for the stream.
Yeah.
Because of the pressures around us. And I think it's just about finding out what works for you, who you are, and being integral to that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, it's been a lovely chat. Thanks, Jake.
Oh,
All right, mate. Well, I'm
you
going to
hit a
take you
spot there,
back.
mate. Yeah,
I'm
go
going to
on.
take you back for track 2, and I'm going to ask you to tell me the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please, mate.
It must be "I Love You, Porgy" by the Billie Holiday version. You ever hear a song and you think that the singer's singing to you? It's one of those moments. In school, like secondary school, when all my mates were listening to Garage and So Solid Crew and Mega Man and Neutrino and all them guys, like I would come home and I would turn on Jazz FM, back in the day, Jazz FM when it first started, and they'd do like late night dinner jazz, and I would literally go up to my room and do my homework, and I'd listen to tunes like that, and that song will always be special to me.
Where was growing up?
Growing up was South London, Crystal Palace, Gypsy Hill.
You're smiling. Fond memories of them times.
Yeah, man. Come on. Walking to school, like I went to an all boys school up the road from there for Crown Point called St. Joseph's. And just the memories, just the banter, like I went to a boys' school, but then there were like 3 girls' schools surrounding the school. So you can imagine like all of us like, it was mate, and the summers where the sun goes down later, and it was just good memories, man. It's good memories.
In regards to the Billie Holiday track, if you had to pinpoint the actual emotion from that, what's the emotion?
Longing. I think just that song always, the way she delivers it is she delivers it in a way in which I think me and probably millions of people around the world want to be loved. The way she sings it, it's like, I'd love for someone to long for me that way. And I think that's what hit me so hard.
Yeah. I'm also intrigued to know, like, when you're like 13, 14, one of your mates grabs your headphones off your Walkman and they're just like, what the fuck's this guy?
Luckily, that never happened. Do you know what?
In hindsight, you nailed it, right?
You
was listening to the right stuff.
I think I would have just been like, they would have asked it, and I think my immediate go-to conversation would have been, well, how does it make you feel?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because them kind of records, it's like that time. It's like they've got to give it up. Like they just make you feel something.
Yeah.
And you can always get into conversation with that feeling.
Absolutely. And that feeling, just to touch back on the Marvin Gaye record, it's impossible not to mention Blurred Lines because because that feeling still works 40 years later.
Absolutely.
Let's
amidst all the legal scandals.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Well, look, you touched on sort of school friends and things like that. So let's talk school. Tell me about the song that reminds you of your time at school, please, Jake.
It has to be "I'll Bring You Flowers," Prisoners of Bass.
Yeah.
It was a massive garage tune back then. That and "Sweet Like Chocolate."
Yeah.
Just massive garage tunes that were everywhere. Like every car driving up every road at some point turned down the windows, and those are the tunes that were coming out. And Got to Get Through This by Daniel Bedingfield. But "I'll Bring You Flowers" was probably like, it was summer. That was like, yeah, man, where people wearing like crazy Moschino jeans and all that kind of madness, like skinny jeans. It was wicked.
And do you know what? That whole fashion and style and the music, it was so British, wasn't it? And so London.
Yeah. That made me proud to be a Londoner.
Yeah.
That made me proud to be a Londoner.
Did you enjoy school?
Yeah, I did actually. It has its ups and downs as usual, but I really enjoyed it. That was like, I got chucked in the deep end, especially secondary school, like what life's like. And
what do you mean?
You just get exposed. I mean, you're a teenager going through puberty, and then you just get exposed to all this, like all these different ideas and backgrounds, but you know what I mean? Like there was some weird stuff and there was some crazy stuff, and like it was just School was amazing. It was for me where you lead into a sense of community. You find your mates, you find those you can do life with, and I'm still mates with some of those guys now. You know, so
You feel like you found your tribe at school then?
I found some of my tribe there. Yeah,
Yeah.
life changes the older you get. Obviously, we know, but there are one or two guys who, when you fast forward later on down to life where we are now, we've all got families and whatever else, we're having similar conversations and we're giving advice to each other because we're kind of on the same page, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Did you know what you wanted to be when you was at school?
Yeah. I want to be a pilot.
Ambitious. I want to be a rock star or a pilot. Set the bar high, mate. Set that bar high.
Yeah, I wanted to be a pilot. Always wanted to be a pilot.
So, how did? I mean, from what I know, music was something that was always kind of around you. You was learning instruments and that from quite a young age, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Was home a musical place?
Nah, we didn't even listen to the radio, mate. And it wasn't because like my family were weird or anything. We didn't listen too much to the radio, just because my parents weren't really interested. My dad read a lot of the newspapers or whatever. And then when it came to TV, we had a black and white TV for years. Just because mum was like, I can't be asked to pay no colour TV license. So at my cousin's house, like I'd go over there and then he'd have like MTV on, and I'd see Michael Jackson Thriller, and I'm like, "What is this?" You know?
Colour.
So yeah, man, like it wasn't particularly musical at all.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how music kind of started to filter through in regards to sort of playing.
Yeah. So I grew up in church. My old man, he was a pastor, and so I grew up in church and like full of music, which is stunning. Like it's a part of who I am, and many musicians in the world came through church, including Marvin Gaye and whoever else. Like, and it just felt like that is like crash course in feeling. You know, when you're growing up in that, that's a crash course in what feels right, what feels good, certain nuances musically. And also there's high competition because like for every 5-year-old kid sat behind a drum, for every one of me, there's another 3 of us like waiting for our turn to play drums. Do you know what I mean? And that was great, man. Like, yeah, that was great. I'll forever be grateful for that time of my life. And I just kind of followed that really. I kind of followed that. I used to, at one point, after when I realized the pilot thing wasn't going to work out, I pursued being a session drummer for a while. And I did that playing on like old jazz artists, rock and roll artists, just because a lot of my peers were playing on pop gigs like David Snedden and Daniel Bedingfield and whatnot. And so I would kind of I'd kind of find other types of artists to work with until I landed my first pop gig playing for Duffy. And then I had to cross a bridge of like, well, you know, my mum said, look, you either do this or you finish your studies. And so I felt the pressure, so I finished my studies. But music's always been there, man. And it's just been coming out in different ways.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me the first song that you bought from a record store.
First song I bought from the record store was actually "Got to Get Through This" by Daniel Bedingfield.
Tell me about your relationship with the record shop. Was it something that became an important part of your life?
Yeah, no, actually, do you know what? It was the whole idea of buying music was, when I first bought that tape, was new to me. Just because I wasn't used to, I've never done it. Like, and it was special because it was like, wow, this feeds me inspiration wise until I buy something else.
Yeah.
And that was special. I remember like when my mum and dad bought me my first like CD player. Like I was like, oh my God, this is huge. You know what I mean? Like this is incredible. It was also literally huge. But yeah, man, buying that for myself, spending my own money and buying that was special. Also, it was great because Daniel's like a friend of the family as well. So it was just good on all levels, like to support a mate, or to support someone we know, and also just to have something, have some music in your house which is popular and to get inspiration from.
Yeah. I want to also just touch on what you were saying about, playing for, you mentioned Duffy, who was absolutely huge,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was, a legit superstar. Um, and yeah, I'm curious as to when you, how young you was when this was happening, the fact that you went back to your studies,
Yeah.
like how, and you learned drums through the church, like to then find yourself playing as a session player at a level that puts you in, in a band with Duffy. Like
Yeah.
how easy did drumming come to you? Did it feel natural?
Yeah, man. Like it was a language to me. Like, and now I've just it's just become like music in general is a language to me. It's a way of saying the things I can't say. I think playing with Duffy wasn't a big deal to me. I was gutted I didn't keep doing the gig and whatnot, and it was all good. Like, but I feel like it wasn't a big deal to me because I was like, I'm just happy to be playing music, let alone getting paid for it. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, this is great. um, but again, things work out for good, don't they? In the end, like by me going back and doing my studies, I ended up continuing to write little love songs in my room, and now a couple of years long,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I am where I am.
Was your creative side encouraged at school?
Uh, but my music teachers, yeah, um, they like. I remember when I wanted to learn bass, and they were like, "Look, there's a bass guitar sitting in the music cupboard. No one uses it. Why don't you take it home for a couple of months?" Like they saw, and I was rubbish at theory, like studying like Baroque period and all that classical stuff. They knew I was rubbish, but they knew that actually my musical intuition, I was hungry.
But
So they
that's the
kind of,
feeling bit, isn't it? That's the feeling
yeah,
bit there. You
definitely,
can you
definitely,
can read it and play it, or you can
definitely,
play it and feel it, right?
definitely. I'd love to be able to do both, but I'm just grateful for the people then that encouraged me just to go with what I could do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Let's go clubbing. Tell me about the song that soundtrack your year's clubbing, please, mate.
Oh mate, In the Club by 50 Cent. Oh, it's a particular at uni. I was just there's a like literally there was probably like one time where like at uni they had different floors. They had like the cheese floor, they had like the chill floor, and then they had the R&B floor
Where, where,
downstairs.
where was this? Where was uni?
This is in Cheltenham. I went to uni in Cheltenham,
Right.
and I studied marketing over there. And I remember going into this like with my mates, like on a student night, and literally I think walked in on the cheese floor, went down to the R&B floor, then went up to the chill floor, like just to chill out and just get. All three of them were playing the same song at the same time. Like it was like on the cheese bar, like this isn't even cheese. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But it was huge and it was everywhere and then all like, do you know what I mean? All my mates were like, right, 50 Cent, like he's packing it in, he's a bit hench, like we should probably like get in the gym. And it's on in the gym, do you know what I mean? Like with the video of him upside down. But yeah, it was good, man. It was everywhere. It was everywhere. It was a great vibe.
It's
Good
such a
memory.
tune. And it felt to me that 50 Cent in certainly in the UK just went from nothing to just superstardom so quickly. That tune
Overnight,
just dropped, and then it was like bang. He's like hip hop royalty. It's crazy.
yeah.
Tell me
Machine.
about your
Yeah,
relationship with hip hop, because I'm very, you've obviously just mentioned 50 Cent there, but as a drummer,
yeah,
I'm 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 curious to know more about your love of hip hop, if there
yeah.
is one.
Yeah, I think that kind of kicked in a bit later because I didn't really get into like American culture. Like, I wasn't like overtaken by that. Um, it was always there, like childhood growing up, like that American culture, hip hop, R&B. I remember like SWV, Destiny's Child, Usher, Little Bow Wow, Mario, Chris Brown when he first started out. And then like R&B and hip hop from America, I wasn't really my thing. I was more interested in like Paul Simon or Billie Holiday or Ella Fitzgerald or Motown. And I think my Motown thing was inspired for two reasons. Like, I knew that Michael Jackson and the Jacksons was coming from that machine. And also, my dad would often listen to Reverend James Cleveland, who's like Aretha Franklin times and whatnot. And so I found myself listening to quite a bit of original music like that. So yeah, man, hip hop wasn't really front and center for me.
Yeah.
And I was cool. I was cool with it. I appreciate it now. I appreciate it now. And but yeah.
In regards to, we touched on the fact that Robin Thicke used, used, however you want to put it, the Marvin Gaye track. For somebody that's been making music from a very young age and playing music from a very young age, when you listen to music now, and we'll get on to some new music in a moment, can you distance yourself from the musician in you and the creator in you and just listen to a record on face value? Or
absolutely,
you're not deconstructing it?
No. I can, again, because I think my primary, as a listener, the primary thing that I'm looking for is the feeling.
Yeah.
So I can listen to a record and be like, this is a banger. Like, I just, like, it's changed the room. Like, you listen to a song and the room that you're in feels different.
Yeah.
And that might be for better or for worse, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not deconstructing like what drum samples did they use and all that, or what mics do you think they use there. Nah, I'm not a nerd like that. I find that coming from being a musician, my immediate thing is to look for, how does this make me feel?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? It's really weird. I went to see a few years ago. I went to see Brian Wilson. Pet Sounds, and obviously as a record that is very unique, and it's been deconstructed by every chin scratcher on the planet. And it was beautiful to hear this record being played in its entirety, and you could, there was I imagine some of the greatest session musicians in the world were on that stage, and there was so much going on. Is it theremins and whatever they call it? It was madness, and you could sort of see that people were saying, "All right, so how are they making that right?" And then he played "God Only Knows," right? And he went, right, everyone just left the stage, piano, one light on him, and he just played "God Only Knows." And it was like, oh, that's the feeling. That's it. That's what this whole thing's about. And no one cared about anything else. It was just like, that's in its bare bones. It's the feeling that band create. And absolutely.
Stu, can I just run and get my laptop charger? I'm on 7%. Is that all right?
Of course.
Give me 1 second.
No worries. Right, I'm going to carry on chatting to myself while Jake goes to get that. And I can't recommend enough that you go and check out the music that Jake's making, and head over to Spotify and check it out, because there's some absolute beautiful pieces of music on there. And we're about to go on to something next when I take him back to his home county, and we have got a beautiful track to discuss there. And he's back. That was a stealth journey to get.
Sorry, man. I started panicking like, oh no. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm professional.
Shocking, mate. Shocking. I'm going to take you home for this track, mate. And for track 6, a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Favourite song, right? Would be "Perfect Ruin" by a guy called Quabs.
That'd do it, wouldn't it? What a tune.
Yeah, he we actually went to we actually ended up for a period of time going to the same church, like went to the same church growing up. And his parents, great peeps. And he never, back then he wasn't singing. And so it wasn't really like going through it like that. And so like a lot of us around were like, "Right, Quabs, mate, your voice is insane." Like, and he carries so much. He carries so much emotion. He carries so much. And I think that song, "Perfect Ruin," was just, I don't know. It's that feeling in it. You hear it even just like from the piano when it first starts. You're just like, it changes the room. You're by the end of it, Like there was periods of time I was like, what is this guy singing about? And I don't even know, but I'm like, I want to cry.
Yeah.
It's stunning, man. Really good.
But it's strange, isn't it? Because some people will absolutely pick apart lyrics and try and bend them to suit their own lives and their own worlds.
Yeah.
And I had an interview with Noel Gallagher, and you know, who's wrote some of the most, I guess, iconic, you know, guitar rock records in history.
Yeah,
And he was like, "Yeah, I don't really know what that's about." But he said like the words fit, and you know, you
yeah,
just think,
yeah.
really, and like.
Totally.
But I think if you get that vibe, if you look at "Don't Look Back in Anger,"
Yeah.
like it could be about anything, but you know that in football stadiums, thousands and thousands of people are going to scream that like their lives depend on it, and it's like it's weird, isn't it?
Totally. It's the feeling, man.
Yeah.
Need more of it.
Um, I want to ask you a little bit. I mean, you was talking there about your friend who had a voice and wasn't doing anything with it, and you know, you
Yeah.
were like, you know, you got to, you know, move on this, and and from drumming at church at a young age and finding your voice and things like that. Tell me about confidence. Were you confident then? Are you confident now? Tell me about how you know, what your relationship is with confidence.
Um, I think I am. I've become. I actually don't use much of that word. I think the longer I've been in this music journey, the terminology I'd use is I've become more comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah,
The reason, and some might say, oh, it's just semantics, Jake, but the reason why I say that is just because confidence talks of I think, an outward expression, and that can come across one of two ways. You can either come across as like an absolute twat, or like like it can be a bold confidence.
yeah,
I feel like I look at the inner perspective, being confident in my own skin, being comfortable in my own skin, sorry, because the reality is nerves are going to kick in at some point.
yeah,
The reality is like you're going to be put in a situation where you're going to have to sing your socks off in front of maybe 1,000 or 10,000 people or whatever. And if you know who you are, yeah, you might feel a bit shaky, but once you know who you are, you can always be authentic to what you sing. That's just my perspective. Like I want what comes out of me to be a real reflection of who I am and what I'm feeling. Whether I feel confident in a room or not, I still want to be myself. So again, like some might say semantics, but that's kind of how I
not
see
at
it.
all, not at
Yeah.
all. I totally agree. When you in the company of somebody that's very comfortable in who they are, that
Yeah.
gives off a confidence. That gives
It
off
does. It
a
does. Yeah.
comfort, and yeah, absolutely. Um, do you experience imposter syndrome at all?
Oh, 100%. Everyone does.
Yeah.
Um,
You're mental if you don't. I think you're a
yeah,
narcissist if you
totally,
don't.
totally. Yes, I do. In fact, just because I didn't plan to be. It's like even today doing this with you, I didn't plan to be. Oh yeah, I'm gonna. When I release it, I'm gonna be doing some great podcasts, and I'm not that way inclined.
Yeah.
And so when something comes along, I also think it's imposter syndrome is probably a little bit healthy because it helps you to maintain a heart of gratitude as well. Like
Yeah.
I never want to be complacent and just take moments like this talking about music and journey and feeling. I never want to take that for granted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even as a dad, as a parent, as a partner, as a spouse, I just I'm constantly like I get to be these things. I'm
Yeah.
rubbish at it. Like I'm learning every day.
Yeah.
Today's another day to learn about being this.
Yeah.
And I think that sense of imposter syndrome helps keep a perspective of humility, particularly creatively. Um, but yeah, again, you got to walk that line, don't you? Because it can also be
Absolutely.
damaging if you lean too much into it.
Of course. Of course. Confidence aside, um, I mean, initially you was going to try and be a pilot, uh, and you chose an equally tough industry to work in, which is the music industry. Tell me about how driven you are.
Um, I see what you did there. Yeah, I think I I am driven, but not in a oh, I need to do this, I want to do this. I'm kind of more like, what am I building? That's probably like one of the questions I ask myself, and I've had like a lot of my mentors ask me as well. Like, Jake, what you're building? What is, like, if I die tomorrow, how will I be remembered? What will show that I was here? What mark did I leave in the world?
Yeah.
And I think that's what drives me. That's what, yeah, there's the music, but also there's my family, like stuff. What's the stuff that I'm building? I want that's my key motivation. We all have a limited time on this earth, and I'm really wrapped up in how I'll be remembered. Yeah, that's what drives me. Yeah, totally.
So you focus more sort of long game and legacy.
Yeah, totally. So my mind will often wander down 3, 5 years at a time, 10 years at a time. Well, I've learned to do 3 to 5, just because I think it's a little bit less overwhelming.
Of course.
And I just think through, yeah, just whether it be financially, time wise, creatively, just with what I have in my hand. All right, what's possible to build? How can I build on stuff in that time? I think for me, it keeps me healthy.
I think that's a really healthy way to look at it, and I think it's a much calmer approach to do it if you look long time.
Yeah,
At the long game, because to go full circle back to where we started in this podcast about
yeah,
5 second swipes of records on
yeah, yeah,
TikTok,
yeah,
and the
yeah.
world is a very, very fast place now, isn't it? Everything's like
Absolutely,
instant, and that's
absolutely.
not healthy. That's definitely not healthy, and that's not good for your mental health. The way that the world is so quick, and I think certainly if it's something that you're passionate about, which is your music and your family and things like that, to look long term,
Yeah,
that's got to be the right way to do it.
totally, totally. Trying to. Anyway, it's been working so far, so I'll let you know how you get on.
Right, this is your last track, mate, and
Cool.
this is where you get to play what the kids call an influencer. Um, Tell me a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear, please, mate.
Georgia by Emily King. She's from New York. I think she's got Hispanic heritage, and she used to actually be in like R&B world in America, like with some of those bands I mentioned, and it didn't work out well. I think she got signed as a token like Hispanic R&B type artist, and it wasn't working for her. Then she kind of took time out, and she came back just making music that she loved.
Yeah.
And she made an EP called Seven, and there's a song, the song which was actually the biggest, I think, for her and for me personally, off that EP was a song called Georgia. And it's just musically, just she samples like some 60s type strings, and it's just like it's like a burst of art, like a burst of color, like looking at an art piece with a burst of color. It's stunning. I think it's stunning. And it's the kind of music where you can listen to it on a drive. That whole EP you can listen to on a long drive, or if you're having a glass of wine before you go to bed, you can just put on that song, and it's just beautiful, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd not heard of her before. When you sent the tracks over, and I put this on, it was one of them. Oh, hang on a minute. So let's sit
Yeah,
down and just breathe this one in.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
got almost like at the beginning, it's got like a sort of like a lo-fi feel to it as
Yes,
well.
defo,
It's
defo.
it's magical. And what we do, Jay, is we put together a little Spotify playlist to accompany the podcast, so people can go and listen to that
Beautiful.
and every other
Yeah,
track
if
that
I'd known that, I would have put all my own music, man.
well, we always put some of your tunes on there as well, mate. So let's talk about your tunes as we start.
Nah, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, we've always got to put the artist music on there as well. So no brainer, mate. Right. Well,
No,
look, we can do the shameless plug bit now, mate.
oh,
So what's happening? Tell us what's happening with the music, mate.
well, I got an album coming out, my third album called For When It Hurts, coming out on the 14th of April. wherever people get the music from. And I just announced on the weekend, actually yesterday, today's Tuesday, yesterday I announced doing a tour, UK and Europe tour, playing Thekla, Bristol, Coco, London, Band on the Wall in Manchester, Amsterdam, we're playing Hamburg, Berlin and Cologne. As like a short run tour in November. So yeah, if you're interested, come along if you're ever listening. And what else? I've just been I'm about to tell the world about it this week. Actually, the first film I was ever acting in has just come out as for a production company in the Netherlands. So the debut of my acting career.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, man, just that's me. I'm Jake Isaac, and yeah, that's it.
And if people want to keep up to speed with when these dates are happening, any sort of news on singles and albums and future works of yours, where's the best place to keep up to speed, mate?
Yeah, all social media outlets. But if you want it direct, live and direct, if you jump on my website, which is www.iamjakeisaac.com, and sign up to the mailing list there, and you'll be the first to hear about everything.
Wonderful. Well, we'll tag, if it's cool with you, we'll tag you on the socials when this episode drops. So if people haven't found you already, they can do so.
Cheers, Brian. Cheers. Thanks so much for having me.
Jake, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I'm going to press stop. Don't go anywhere, mate.
Yeah.